This video, posted by the New York Times newspaper, appears to show an explosion as Ukraine Airlines Flight 752 is struck. The plane flies on for several minutes before turning back towards Tehran airport, where security cameras capture the moment it hits the ground. Among the dead were 63 Canadians.
We have intelligence from multiple sources, including our allies and our own intelligence. The evidence indicates that the plane was shot down by an Iranian surface-to-air missile.
At the time of the crash, Iran had fired missiles at bases in Iraq hosting U.S. troops. Iran's military was prepared for a U.S. response, but Iran says the plane was not hit by a missile.
Any statement made before extracting the information contained in the black box is groundless. However, I'd like to assure you that the aircraft was not hit by a missile. The aircraft was on fire for 1.5 minutes after taking off, so the pilot decided to return to the airport. But he had many technical issues at hand.
Iran initially refused to hand over to the US the so-called black boxes used to record cockpit voices and flight data. But Iran has now invited the aircraft's manufacturer, Boeing, to be part of the investigation. France made the aircraft's engines and says it too wants to be involved. And the US National Transportation Safety Board says it's assigned a representative to the investigation. There are reports that debris has been bulldozed into a pile, but one expert says the dead may provide answers.
There could be evidence literally within the bodies of the victims that could point to whether or not, for example, an explosion took place inside or outside of the aircraft.
The United States is said to have given Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky what's described as important data related to the crash. President Zelensky has laid flowers at a makeshift memorial at the airport where the plane was expected to land. At least one vigil is being held in Toronto in Canada. Many of those who died had dual nationalities.
He was coming back home from a trip. He went to go see his mother on the holidays. And, he passed away and, we couldn't do anything about it, bro.
Some are furious that Iran may have been involved in the crash. Others are waiting to find out when the bodies of their loved ones might return home. Rob Matheson, Al Jazeera.
Well, Al Jazeera's Dorsa Jabari is in Tehran. She has more on what aviation officials have been saying there.
This was a press conference that was given by the head of Iran's civil aviation authorities, and the man in charge of that said that it was actually impossible for this plane to have been struck by any kind of missile or a projectile device, because the plane was on fire for over 1 minute and 30 seconds in the air before it crashed, and that means, according to the Iranians' calculations, that it wasn't struck by anything, that there was actually, they believe there was a technical malfunction of this plane. It took off and 6 minutes after it took off, it crashed. So the Iranians are now looking into this entire incident. The Iranian president has expressed his condolences to the family's victims. We're also hearing that there are people coming from the United States, France, and Canada to help with the aviation authorities in Iran along with their investigation. We also know the Ukrainian officials are already on the ground in the capital here on Friday, helping with this investigation. According to the head of the Civil Aviation Authority, 2 black boxes have been retrieved, but they are very badly damaged, so it's not clear what they will be able to find from those devices at this point. But for now, the Iranians are saying it's very important that the international community doesn't make accusations or come to conclusions in a hasty manner. The investigation is still just starting. There's been a special committee that's been formed by the government, and the president himself has called for an investigation. So this committee will need at least 6 months to 1 year to try and determine what actually happened to this flight.